Okay, so let's review what we've done so far on your directions. We've had the list of your materials, the instructions, or to center and glue each hexie onto the wrong side of each of the small fabric squares. Cut around the edges, leaving an approximate 1/4 inch seam allowance. Swipe the seam allowance with glue stick, fold over, not too tight, and press onto hexie paper. The brown fabric hexie will be the center of the flower. Place it and one of the 6 petals right sides together. Join the 2 with a whip stitch along one edge, making sure to not pierce the paper. Repeat this step with each petal, attaching to center hexie until they form a flower. Whip stitch remaining side edges together and remove the papers. This is the fun part. I love this part of removing the papers. Now, you want to make sure you've pressed these, because these outer edges will be needing to be pressed kind of tight. You know, that thumb, I don't know if you've heard of the thumbnail press, so that when you take the papers out, you can lay them on top of the muslin. Let's get our muslin ready. The lavender smells so good as I open the little box. Okay, so you start with, just peel the edges up. And you're going to lift that paper out. Now you can save your papers. I get a package of them. There's 375 pieces. So if you want to do this, just know that you can get packages, and then you don't necessarily have to save every little piece, every little paper. Then we're going to go around, lifting carefully. And remove. And then kind of as you go, as you're taking the pieces out, just do a little extra pressing there to keep them, the crease firm. I just think every stage of this project, I think, which stage do I love the most? Which step do I love the most? And I just love this part an awful lot. Now, when you're doing, if you were doing a large quilt, or, you know, piecing together a quilt, you would not take the pieces out until you had stitched another, like if you had stitched another flower here, you could take out only the pieces that have been stitched around the edges. I'll show you at the end, I'll show you an example of a quilt I'm working on. But for this project, we're going to need to be whip stitching it down onto, like in an applique fashion. So we'll have to take all these papers out at once. This hexie quilting can get quite addictive. You can make up your little hexies, then you can sew them into flowers and have stacks of flowers, and then piece them together as you have time. So it's just, I think it's all the little steps that you can do a little at a time. It's a project that you don't rush through. It's especially if you're doing a larger project with the hexies. It's just one that I think it's one of those that it's worth the process, the time that it takes, and the journey of it. It's not necessarily completing something so fast. It's the joy is in the making of it. So that's what I guess I love it so much. Now this one's going to be a little more difficult because to get that fabric, so we'll do some pinning with that, with the straight pins. And I know I sent you 4 straight pins, but you might want to use more as you feel the need. Okay, so there is our little flowerette. And we're going to center it onto our muslin and pin it down and begin to stitch. And I'll be back.